Now, here's an example of what happens when the government runs an agency. We're talking about the U.S. Postal Service. It is bleeding money. How much? How about $2.4 billion in just the last quarter? A quarter, by the way, is 12 weeks. And it expects to be $7 billion in the red by the end of the fiscal year. That ends in September. Well, the Postmaster General blaming exploding pension costs. A $5.4 billion pension payment due in September. He told Congress today, and I'm going to quote for you, if we were to make that entire payment, the Postal Service would not have the working capital reserves to fund operations or meet payroll obligations. So he wants to stop mail deliveries on Saturdays. Is that all it's going to take? Let's ask Don Soifer from the Consumer Postal Council. You, sir, are basically a watchdog. You watch over the Postal Service, I believe. Do you think it's enough to close that gap, $7 billion, $5 billion for pensions, just by stopping Saturday delivery?
It's $7 billion this year after losing $3 billion last year and $5 billion the year before. It's a crisis. The whole industry knows it's a crisis. The question is the individual household consumer who goes to the post office, buys a stamp, and mails a letter going to have to bear the burden of another bailout? It's not the size of the auto bailout, but it's getting there.
It is a bailout because, I mean, that's taxpayer money which has to go to support the Postal Service, which is in deep trouble. We understand that. But I think the problem is with the politicians. Because if you want to close a certain number of postal offices, for example, you've got to get a law passed. And no congressman is going to be prepared to see his post office closed in his hometown. The politicians are at fault here.
Oh, you're right, Stuart. There's a hearing going on right now. There are 37,000 post offices in the United States. That's more than there are Starbucks, McDonald's, and Walmarts combined. Now, every time a member of Congress asks about it, though, they want to know, are there post offices in my district that are being threatened? And the postal labor unions and special interests are doing a very good job making sure that they're not the ones that are hurt, but you don't see any individual household consumers up on Capitol Hill making their case.
And this is the problem when the government runs a company or an industry. You end up with politicians exercising control, not investors, not profit and loss. I spoke to, I think his name is Jack Potter, the Postmaster General, that's correct? I had a brief conversation with him just a couple of months ago. He wants to sell all kinds of things in post offices, like candy bars, for example. But you can't. You've got to have a new law from Congress to allow you to do that. I mean, these guys, what's the solution here? I mean...
Sure. Well, they're desperate for new revenue streams, of course, and the post office's track record with new products and services is terrible. They're very good at giving discounts to big mailers. They just had their big summer sale, and you probably got a few more credit card offers than you would have last month. But the Postal Service, as it falls over itself to give discounts to big mailers and introduce new products and services, once in a while they work. This new all-purpose go-anywhere box that they're selling seems to be doing pretty well. But on the other hand, their track record for doing it is terrible. They seem to have managed to lose money every time they do it. It seems to me that if you're the Postal Service and you have 37,000 post offices, maybe you want to look to the one sector in the economy that is growing. Maybe you want to look to see what value you might have to other government agencies and look for some revenue there.
Okay, at the end of the day, you're the watchdog. You're looking at the Postal Service. What's going to happen? Do we give them a bailout, an endless bailout of a lot more money for many, many years to come? Or do we force them to really shrink and do something about those pensions? Which is it? Because it's one or the other, isn't it?
We're going to let them keep borrowing more money for now, and we're going to give them more time to pay their pensions for now, but sooner or later they're going to have to find a drastic new source of business. And there's a real concern for consumers. Do you want your Postal Service to get involved, say, in financial services? How would the regulation of that work?
Yeah, but the solution comes later. You're saying that for now, we give them some money, right?
It sure seems like that's the mood of the Congress.
Dan Soifer, thanks very much for joining us. We appreciate it.